The notification appeared on my phone at exactly 6:47 a.m. Goldman Sachs names youngest partners in firm history. I was reviewing quarterly earnings reports in my home office when the Wall Street Journal alert popped up. My name was third on the list. 3 time zones away in Chicago, my phone started buzzing. Text after text from colleagues, mentors, and industry contacts. But the call I was waiting for came at 7:23 a.m. Michael? It's Rachel. My sister's voice was different than it had been just 48 hours earlier at our family reunion. I just saw the news. I had no idea you were even being considered for partner. I set down my coffee and walked to the window overlooking Central Park. The process is confidential until the announcement. I couldn't discuss it with anyone. But partner? At Goldman? You're only 32. 33 next month, I corrected gently. And yes, it's been a long road. The irony wasn't lost on me. Just 2 days earlier, Rachel had cornered me at Uncle Tom's backyard barbecue in suburban Illinois, explaining to our assembled relatives why my career in finance was essentially a dead end. Michael thinks he's going to make it big on Wall Street, she'd announced to the picnic table full of cousins, aunts, and uncles. But he doesn't understand how these firms really work. It's all about connections, family money, Ivy League networks. You can't just work hard and expect to rise to the top. I'd been filling my plate with grilled vegetables when she launched into her analysis. Rachel worked in corporate communications for a mid-sized manufacturing company in Milwaukee. She'd spent 2 years at Northwestern's business school and considered herself well-versed in professional hierarchies. The partners at these investment banks come from old money families, she continued, warming to her theme. Their fathers are CEOs, their grandfathers founded companies. Michael graduated from state school. He doesn't have those advantages. Our cousin Jennifer had nodded sympathetically. It must be frustrating to hit that ceiling. I think Michael's doing just fine, Aunt Patricia had interjected diplomatically. Oh, he's doing fine, Rachel agreed. I'm sure he makes decent money. But partner? At Goldman Sachs? That's a different league entirely. Those positions are reserved for people with serious connections. I'd continued loading potato salad onto my plate, listening to Rachel's detailed explanation of why my career trajectory was fundamentally limited by my background. She meant well, I knew. Rachel had always been protective even when we were kids. She worried about me setting unrealistic expectations. The financial industry is incredibly hierarchical, she'd explained to the table. There are invisible barriers that most people don't see until they hit them. Michael's talented, but talent alone isn't enough at that level. Uncle Tom had changed the subject to the Cubs' chances this season, and the conversation had moved on. But Rachel's words had echoed the doubts I'd wrestled with throughout my career. She wasn't wrong about the industry's reputation for favoring certain backgrounds. I'd grown up in Rockford, Illinois, the son of a high school teacher and a postal worker. My parents had worked 2 jobs each to help pay for my education at University of Illinois. I'd graduated with a finance degree and $47,000 in student loans, then moved to Chicago for an entry-level position at a regional investment firm. The transition to Goldman Sachs had come 3 years later, when a mentor recommended me for an associate position in their derivatives trading division. I'd spent the next 8 years systematically building expertise in complex financial instruments, developing client relationships, and leading increasingly large transactions. But Rachel's assessment at the reunion reflected a common perception about Wall Street firms. The industry did have a reputation for promoting people based on connections rather than performance. Her skepticism was shared by many of our extended family members, who viewed my career with a mixture of pride and concern. Are you still there? Rachel's voice brought me back to the present moment. Yes, sorry. Just processing everything. It's been a whirlwind morning. Michael, I owe you an apology. What I said at the reunion was completely out of line. I had no idea what you'd accomplished, and I made assumptions about your career that were clearly wrong. I appreciated her directness. You were looking out for me. I understand that. No, I was being condescending and presumptuous. I know you well enough to know you don't talk about work unless someone asks directly. I should have asked about your actual responsibilities instead of making pronouncements about the industry. That was true. I'd always been private about the specifics of my career. When family members asked about work, I usually gave general responses about doing well or staying busy. The confidential nature of many transactions made detailed discussions impossible, but more than that, I'd never wanted to seem like I was bragging about deals or compensation. The partnership process at Goldman is incredibly rigorous, I explained. It typically takes 10 to 15 years of demonstrated performance across multiple business cycles. The selection considers revenue generation, client development, risk management, and leadership capabilities. How long have you been working toward this? Actively? About 5 years. The firm identified me as a potential partner candidate after I led the restructuring of the Midwest municipal bond portfolio during the 2019 market volatility. But the evaluation process considers your entire body of work. Rachel was quiet for a moment. I had no idea you were handling transactions at that level. The municipal bond work involved $2.3 billion in restructured debt across 17 different municipalities. It required coordination between our trading desk, research division, and client advisory teams. The deal protected pension funds for about 400,000 retirees. I hadn't intended to provide such specific details, but Rachel's genuine interest encouraged me to continue. Most of my work involves institutional clients, pension funds, insurance companies, sovereign wealth funds. The transactions are large enough that they can impact entire markets if they're not structured properly. And Goldman just announced you as the youngest partner in firm history? One of the youngest. There are 3 of us in this promotion cycle who are under 35. The firm has been making an effort to promote based on performance rather than tenure. My phone buzzed with another incoming call. The caller ID showed David Chin, my managing director. Rachel, I need to take this call from my boss. Can we continue this conversation later? Of course. Michael, I'm really proud of you. And I'm sorry for underestimating what you've built. I accepted David's call as Rachel hung up. Michael, congratulations. The announcement has generated significant client interest. I need you in the office by 9 for the partner welcome meeting, then we have 3 client calls scheduled to discuss your new role. I'll be there in 45 minutes. Excellent. Also, Reuters is requesting a comment about the promotion. Communications wants to coordinate a brief statement emphasizing your municipal bond expertise. After David hung up, I sat quietly for a few minutes, reflecting on the contrast between Saturday's family reunion and Monday's reality. Rachel's assumptions about my career limitations had been understandable but incomplete. The path to partnership had required not just technical expertise, but also the ability to build trust with clients who managed hundreds of billions in assets. The Goldman Sachs partnership represented recognition from one of the most selective professional organizations in finance. The firm promoted fewer than 2% of its employees to partner level, and the evaluation process involved detailed review by existing partners across multiple divisions. But more than the title or compensation, the partnership meant the opportunity to influence how the firm approached emerging markets and regulatory challenges. My municipal bond expertise had positioned me to help institutional clients navigate increasingly complex credit markets. My phone rang again. This time it was Mom. Michael, honey, your Aunt Patricia just called. She saw the news online. Is it true you made partner at Goldman Sachs? His mom. The announcement went out this morning. Oh my goodness. Your father and I are so proud. We had no idea this was happening. I couldn't discuss it until the firm made the announcement. The process is confidential. Rachel called too. She's feeling terrible about what she said at the reunion. She already apologized. Rachel was trying to protect me from disappointment. I understand her perspective. She said she had no idea you were working on such important projects. Most of my work involves confidential client relationships. I can't discuss specific transactions even with family. Mom was quiet for a moment. We always knew you were doing well, but we didn't realize how well. Your father wants to know if you can explain what a partner does at Goldman Sachs. I smiled. Dad had spent 37 years teaching high school mathematics. His questions about finance were always thoughtful and precise. A partner has equity ownership in the firm and responsibility for major client relationships. I'll be leading the municipal bond advisory practice for the Midwest region. That means working with state and local governments, pension funds, and insurance companies to structure debt financing. That sounds like a lot of responsibility. It is. But it's also an opportunity to help public institutions manage their financial obligations more effectively. Municipal bonds fund schools, hospitals, infrastructure projects. The work has direct impact on communities. That's wonderful, honey. When can you visit and tell us more about it? Mom. I promise. After we hung up, I finished reviewing the morning's market reports and prepared for the day ahead. The Goldman Sachs office was a 40-minute subway ride from my apartment, and I wanted to arrive early for the partner meeting. As I gathered my briefcase and laptop, I thought about Rachel's reaction to the news. Her immediate apology demonstrated genuine character and the ability to reassess her assumptions when presented with new information. That kind of intellectual honesty was rare and valuable. The family reunion conversation had stung at the time, not because Rachel's assessment was malicious, but because it reflected broader misperceptions about meritocracy in finance. The industry did have legitimate issues with diversity and inclusion, but it was also true that performance and expertise could overcome background disadvantages. My path to partnership had required not just technical competence, but also the emotional intelligence to build relationships with clients from vastly different backgrounds. The municipal bond work involved everything from small-town mayors to sovereign wealth fund managers. Success required the ability to translate complex financial concepts into clear recommendations tailored to each client's specific circumstances. The subway ride to Lower Manhattan gave me time to review the day's agenda. Beyond the partner welcome meeting, I had scheduled calls with 3 major institutional clients who wanted to discuss expanded advisory relationships. The partnership announcement had enhanced my credibility with clients who valued the firm's recognition of my expertise. At 8:47 a.m. I walked through the Goldman Sachs lobby for the first time as a partner. The morning routine was familiar: security badge, elevator to the 32nd floor, brief conversations with colleagues, but the context had fundamentally changed. David Chin met me at the elevator bank. Michael, ready for the big leagues? Absolutely. What's the agenda for the partner meeting? Standard welcome presentation, then individual meetings with division heads to discuss your expanded responsibilities. The real work starts tomorrow when you begin managing the institutional client portfolio. The partner welcome meeting included 6 other newly promoted professionals from different divisions. The presentation covered the firm's strategic priorities, partnership responsibilities, and performance expectations. The tone was congratulatory but businesslike. Partnership was an achievement, but also the beginning of greater accountability. During the lunch break, I called Rachel back. "How's your first day as partner?" she asked. "Busy but good. Lots of new responsibilities to learn." "Michael, I've been thinking about our conversation at the reunion. I realize I've been making assumptions about your career for years without actually asking about your work." "What do you mean?" "I assumed you were stuck in some middle management role because you never talked about specific projects or achievements. I interpreted your modesty as evidence that you weren't advancing." That was perceptive. I had deliberately downplayed my career progression, partly from professional discretion but also from concern about seeming pretentious to family members with different career backgrounds. "I probably could have been more open about the work I was doing," I admitted. "No, that's my fault. I should have asked better questions instead of making pronouncements about an industry I don't really understand." "Rachel, you've always been protective of me. I appreciate that even when your assumptions were off base. I want to understand your work better. Could you explain what municipal bond advisory actually involves?" I appreciated her genuine interest. Municipal bonds are debt securities issued by state and local governments to fund public projects. When a city needs to build a new school or repair infrastructure, they issue bonds to raise the necessary capital. My job is to help them structure those offerings in ways that minimize borrowing costs while meeting investor requirements. "So you're helping governments save money on debt financing?" "Exactly. Poor structuring can cost a municipality millions of dollars in unnecessary interest payments over the life of the bond. Good advisory work protects taxpayer resources while ensuring that essential projects get funded." That's actually really meaningful work. It is. The municipal bond market provides about $400 billion annually in funding for schools, hospitals, roads, water systems. The advisory work has direct impact on communities across the country. Rachel was quiet for a moment. "I had no idea your work involved such important public policy implications. Most people think of investment banking as purely profit-focused, but there's a significant public interest component to municipal finance. The goal is to help government entities access capital markets efficiently. Michael, I owe you more than just an apology. I owe you respect for what you've accomplished. I clearly didn't understand the significance of your work or the achievement that partnership represents. Thank you. But I also want you to know that your skepticism wasn't entirely wrong. The finance industry does have problems with elitism and exclusion. I've been fortunate to work for managers who valued performance over background, but that's not universal. Still, I shouldn't have assumed your career was limited by your background. That was condescending and unfair. Rachel, we've always been honest with each other. I value your perspective even when it challenges me. Saturday's conversation made me think about how I communicate about my work with family. What do you mean? I've been so focused on avoiding bragging that I haven't shared meaningful details about what I actually do. That leaves room for people to make assumptions based on incomplete information. So you'll be more open about your work going forward? Within professional constraints, yes. I want our family to understand what partnership means and how the work contributes to broader economic outcomes. After we hung up, I spent the afternoon in meetings with existing clients who wanted to discuss expanded advisory relationships. The partnership designation had enhanced my credibility with institutional investors who valued Goldman's recognition of my expertise. The final call of the day was with Margaret Sullivan, Chief Investment Officer for the Illinois Teachers' Retirement System. TRS managed $55 billion in assets for 400,000 current and retired educators. Michael, congratulations on the partnership. I saw the announcement in the Journal this morning. Thank you, Margaret. I'm excited about the expanded opportunities to serve institutional clients like TRS. Your work on the Chicago School District restructuring was exceptional. You helped us preserve pension obligations while reducing the system's borrowing costs by $200 million over 20 years. That project required close coordination between TRS, the school district, and the city's financial team. I'm glad we were able to structure a solution that protected educator benefits while improving the district's fiscal position. We'd like to discuss expanding our relationship with Goldman through your municipal advisory practice. TRS is considering several infrastructure investments that would benefit from your expertise. The conversation continued for 45 minutes, covering potential advisory work worth $500 million in bond transactions over the next 2 years. Margaret's confidence in my capabilities reflected years of demonstrated performance on complex restructuring projects. As I prepared to leave the office, I reflected on the contrast between Saturday's family reunion and Monday's professional validation. Rachel's assumptions about my career limitations had been understandable but incomplete. The path to partnership had required not just technical expertise, but also the ability to build trust with sophisticated institutional clients. More importantly, the day had highlighted the value of honest communication with family members about professional accomplishments. Rachel's immediate apology and genuine interest in understanding my work demonstrated the kind of intellectual humility that strengthened our relationship. That evening, I called Dad to explain the partnership role in more detail. Michael, your mother told me about the promotion. I'm proud of you, but I have to admit I don't fully understand what a partner does at an investment bank. A partner has ownership equity in the firm and responsibility for major client relationships. I'll be leading advisory work for government entities and institutional investors in the municipal bond market. Can you give me a specific example? Sure. Last year, I helped the state of Indiana restructure $800 million in education debt. The existing bonds had high interest rates that were draining resources from classroom funding. We structured new bonds at lower rates, saving the state $150 million over 15 years. So you helped free up money for schools? Exactly. That $150 million in savings went directly back into teacher salaries, classroom resources, and infrastructure improvements. The financial engineering had direct educational impact. Dad was quiet for a moment. That's remarkable, son. I had no idea your work involved such important public policy outcomes. Most people think of Wall Street as purely profit-focused, but municipal finance has significant public interest components. The goal is to help government entities access capital markets efficiently so they can fund essential services. Your work is actually protecting taxpayer resources? That's right. Poor financial structuring can waste millions of dollars in unnecessary interest payments. Good advisory work ensures that public funds are used efficiently. Michael, I wish you had explained this sooner. I'm not just proud of your success. I'm proud of the work you're doing for communities across the country. The conversation with Dad reinforced my commitment to better communication about my career with family members. Their support had been crucial throughout my education and early career development. They deserved to understand how their investment in my potential had created opportunities to contribute to important public policy outcomes. The next morning, I arrived at the office early to begin managing my expanded client portfolio. The partnership responsibilities were significant, but they also represented the culmination of 15 years of systematic skill development in financial markets. Rachel called during my lunch break. Michael, I've been reading about municipal bonds online. I had no idea this market was so important to public infrastructure funding. It's a $4 trillion market that most people never think about, but it funds everything from schools to hospitals to water treatment plants. And your partnership means you'll be leading advisory work for major institutional clients? That's right. Pension funds, insurance companies, sovereign wealth funds, organizations that manage hundreds of billions in assets and need sophisticated advice about municipal credit markets. I'm really impressed, Michael. And I'm sorry it took a Wall Street Journal announcement for me to understand what you've accomplished. Rachel, your reaction has been gracious and thoughtful. I appreciate your willingness to reassess your assumptions and ask better questions about my work. I learned something important about making judgments without complete information. It won't happen again. The conversation with Rachel reflected the broader impact of the partnership announcement on family relationships. Her genuine interest in understanding my work had created opportunities for more meaningful discussions about career development and professional goals. But more than that, her intellectual honesty about reassessing her assumptions demonstrated the kind of character that strengthened our sibling relationship. The ability to acknowledge mistakes and adjust perspectives based on new information was a valuable trait that extended far beyond career discussions. As I prepared for the afternoon's client meetings, I reflected on the unexpected benefits of the partnership announcement. The professional recognition had certainly enhanced my credibility with institutional clients, but it had also created opportunities for deeper communication with family members who had supported my education and career development from the beginning. The work ahead would be challenging, managing major client relationships while navigating increasingly complex regulatory environments. But the foundation of technical expertise, client trust, and family support provided a strong platform for the responsibilities that partnership entailed. Most importantly, the experience had reinforced my commitment to using financial expertise in service of broader public policy outcomes. The municipal bond market provided essential funding for community infrastructure, and advisory work had direct impact on the efficient use of taxpayer resources. That impact, more than the title or compensation, made the partnership meaningful. And Rachel's thoughtful response to the announcement had demonstrated that family relationships could deepen through honest communication about professional accomplishments and the values that guided career decisions. The path to partnership had required not just technical competence, but also the emotional intelligence to build relationships with clients, colleagues, and family members based on mutual respect and shared commitment to meaningful outcomes. That foundation would continue to guide the work ahead as I embraced the expanded responsibilities that partnership entailed.